Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th Annual Homeless Memorial. My name is Teresa Conroy. I'm a member of the Client Action Committee. We're a group of volunteers who use their voice and experience of homelessness to advocate for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness in our city. At this time, I would like to recognize our Mayor, Judy Gondek, and several city councilors and special guests who are joining us tonight. Thank you for your presence. This is, as I said, the 8th annual longest night of the year memorial, and to commemorate the lives of those that were lost experiencing homelessness in the city of Calgary in 2022. I would like to thank all of you for being here tonight and offer our sincere condolences to each and everyone's losses. Before we officially begin the evening, I have a few housekeeping items. The City of Calgary has security available on site. Exits are located to my right and to your left. The washrooms are located by the elevators. Food and refreshments and care packages are available after the ceremony. Snacks. There's a snack table back there. Anyway, we will be reading a list of names that have been submitted by the Client Action Committee and colleagues and shelters throughout the cities. We also invite you to take the time at the end of the memorial to write down names of who you are remembering and post it at the end on our makeshift memorial. Thank goodness we're inside and it's not cold outside. Well, it is cold outside. Thank goodness we're in here. So take the opportunity to place your names on the replica of the permanent homeless memorial at the front. And since we've decided it was too cold, I'd like to now introduce Paul. He's with the Client Action Committee for the land acknowledgement. Paul? Oh.
Thank you, Teresa. I am Paul Jensen. It's my honor to acknowledge the land we live on. In the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we honor and acknowledge Mohkinstsis, the traditional Treaty 7 territory and oral practices of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, as well as the Stoney Nakoda and Tsuut'ina nations. We acknowledge this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. Finally, we acknowledge all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, and play on this land, and honor and celebrate this territory.
Thank you, Paul. I was told that you can't hear me back there, so I'm going to have to use my theater voice. So thank you very much, Paul. I'd like to now ask and actually I'd like to acknowledge the Mayor Judy Gondek again. She's just apparently walked in. Thank you, Paul. So Emil Elder Ward to join us to perform your blessing. Thank you, Emil. Sorry? Oh, yes, sorry. Emil is a member of Driftpile First Nations. He received his education in Edmonton and shortly thereafter moved to Calgary. He was employed with the industrial sales sector for some time. And during this time, he's experienced and developed alcohol and drug addictions. He sought treatment for his addictions in 1980 and has been alcohol and drug-free since February 26, 1980. Thank you. Emil was guided into becoming a counselor in 1983. His capacity is a wide range in community services with helping members through addiction, domestic violence, and men's anger healing. Recently, he has been invited to assist struggling people with an elder support team member at the Mississauga Community Services. Please welcome Elder Emil Ward. Did I say your name right?
Wow, good evening. My name is Emil Ward, as per introduction, and I'm honored to be invited by Allison Casey to perform a short little ceremony to bless the program, the attendees, participants, volunteers, ceremonial people, and also the people of Treaty 7. And respecting Treaty 7, I paid for my parking. Respecting the land and the bylaws of our city. Yeah, I've been a member of Calgary, a fortunate member of Calgary since 1966 when I graduated, and have worked all over Western Canada from this area. So, and as mentioned, all of it in primarily in addictions. I cannot light the smudge. However, I can offer it in the prayers to all four directions of people that are hurting and remembering this evening the purpose of why we're here, to share the memory of people that have suffered. And I apologize to all of you for not participating in this. But as you know, in addictions, in my career, homelessness was a big part of it. And I believe the organization I ran, or I worked in the treatment center, the director was a member of the committee as well. In the founding of the original committee, I think 8 or 10 years ago, I can't remember, but I know we were given a presentation by our director about homelessness and our participation. But the memorial was a unique part for me, as Allison educated me about what has been happening through this committee, through the committees, and the push toward healing this issue. So tonight I'm just going to say a quick prayer to open our ceremonies, to open our agenda. Heavenly Father, Creator, we ask you, keep in mind the hearts of our participants this evening, those that are at home, those that are still suffering this evening, and those that are here to celebrate the influence of their lives, however short. Creator, we ask you for continued strength to do the will of healing, to do the healing of the pains and traumas that are related to homelessness, the addictions, the violence, the child care issues, our weaknesses, Creator. We ask for strength to do the right thing in our family situations and our teachings of our children, that we may all be respectful and that we may always be willing to open our eyes to pain and to make offerings for wellness for our families and communities, all my relations. And now since I can't light it, I will pray. And I ask you to pray in your own language as I offer as much to all four directions of this city. Hi, all my relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil Ward. That was a lovely blessing. I'd like to now call upon Nigel Kurt. He is going to present the history of our longest night. Please welcome Nigel.
Is this one on? Okay. I hope the other one's off because that could cause feedback. My name is Nigel, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Longest Night of the Year Memorial Service here in Calgary. And I'd really like to thank everyone on the Client Action Committee team for everything that they've done this year. This is one of the first years where I've kind of taken a back seat to everything. I do have a standard day job, and so I wasn't able to be as involved this year. And so I just want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone on the Client Action Committee for all your hard work in making today happen. It means the world to me. The history of the Longest Night of the Year actually dates back to the 80s and 90s in the United States, particularly Skid Row, and it's since become a bit of a global phenomenon. And about 9 years ago, I brought it up to the Client Action Committee. I'd only been with the committee for about 7 months at that time, but we were working on a research project for the Homeless Charter of Rights, which I hope everyone in this room is familiar with. If not, speak to someone from the CHF and we will find a way to get a copy into your hands. And we were wondering what we were going to do when this wrapped up. And so I brought up the possibility of a memorial service for the homeless community. And everyone agreed to it because someone who was dear to us all had passed away just prior to me joining the committee. And it was actually someone that I knew as well. Her name was Heather, and she was wonderful and passionate and energetic and sometimes grumpy, and rightfully so, but we all loved Heather very much, and she was an important part of the group. And so that made it very personal for all of us who were in the room at that time. And we made it a mission that we were going to do. It was very short notice because I had put it forward in September. So that first year was actually myself and Randy meeting at James Short Park, symbolically because that is one of the few parks in Calgary that is open 24/7. It is essentially a vagrancy park, as we called it. And as such, that's where we decided to hold it. And so I grabbed a bunch of candles from Walmart and some little cupcake cones to keep the wax from dripping onto our fingers, and swung by Tim Hortons with a couple things of coffee and brought him down. And we sat in the park. It was myself, Randy, Nick, and a couple of our other friends. And we just sat there and we held our candles, we lit them, which apparently we're not supposed to do. That was a violation of fire safety regulations, and I sincerely apologize to the city of Calgary. I did not know that at the time. And we swapped stories, though, of people that we missed, people that we cared about, people whose lives had touched us. And as we sat there, other people passed through. Some of them, we smoked a joint with them. I don't use it anymore, but I was not going to stop anyone from, trying to enjoy themselves on a cold night. And would have some coffee, and we'd swap cigarettes, and we just continue to share stories, and we'd hear stories from people that we'd never met before who were living on the streets. And it was just such an empowering moment. It was a group of us who were either homeless or just recently got housed. I'd only been housed for about 3 months at the time. And this was us taking action over our empowerment for what happens when we go on. And to see it expand to this huge event is amazing. And some other organizations had started doing their events. I know prior to the pandemic, Poverty Talks was doing an event at Potter's Field. And I also want to take this moment to share about Potter's Field and that importance. Here we are reading, I've heard different numbers for the names, so can someone clarify with me? Is it 239? Okay, that's actually a new number to me because I had 217 and then 238. And I'll get onto the significance of these numbers soon. But today we are reading 239 names. Previous years, we had read a number of names. In the first year, we went as far back as any of us could remember, even going through newspapers and just anyone we knew, and we added their names to the list. But in Potter's Field, that is where people who were homeless were interred before we kept records. Not before we as the Client Action Committee kept records, before the City of Calgary kept records. That is where there is no records. That is a place where people who are homeless are buried with no name and no record of their existence. So I want to take this moment for everyone to just reflect on that. That in addition to everyone we are remembering today and everyone we have remembered in the previous years, there is a list of people that we will never know, and we honor them tonight as well. And if you want to go and honor them as well, you just go to Potter's Field. It's at the cemetery further up McLeod Trail, on the far end of the cemetery on McLeod Trail from here. And it's just a small marker that says PF on it and a bit of like an empty unmarked space in the cemetery. As for the numbers, I don't think it's lost upon us that prior to the pandemic, the numbers of people who were passing away because of homelessness was going down. Since the pandemic, that number has increased every year. And we could debate whether the pandemic's still around, whether we're in an endemic, whether it's behind us, but tonight is not the night for that debate. The fact is that this is a crisis. In the 80s, the United Nations declared a state of emergency in Canada on homelessness because 100 people were passing away because of homelessness across the entire country. We are now at 239 in one city. That's not including what's happening in Toronto, where they have to do a memorial service every month. That's not including Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal, the Maritimes. That's just Calgary alone. Homelessness is a crisis, and rather than treating it like a crisis that's inconvenient to us, we need to treat it as a crisis for the people who are experiencing it. And I think that's something that's been lost in every single conversation surrounding homelessness. Not just the political conversations. Those are conversations that I think are lost in City Council as well. But I think it's something that we have lost as citizens in our day-to-day. We don't talk about that at our school. We don't talk about the fact that these are human beings. We don't talk about that in college, in our sociology and socioeconomics classes. We need to start actually making it a mainstream conversation, that it's not a crisis for us who are safely housed, it's a crisis for those who are living on the streets. We had the option of being able to move inside today. There are close to 5,000 Calgarians who don't have that option. And they are putting themselves at great risk tonight. And for anyone who is able to come here from the streets, whether you're here as part of the memorial service or just here to get warm for an hour, I don't care. I want this to be the safest space it can be for you while we're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. I just want to echo Nigel's sentiment on that. A friend just updated me, somebody that was housed recently has passed away. So that number has increased to 240. And those are the names that we know of that have been reported. There's a lot more out of there, and myself, who was homeless once as well. I have a great deal of gratitude to the Calgary Homeless Foundation for housing me. And people can be success stories if given a chance. It's because of trauma that folks experience stuff like this. On a frigid night like tonight, we need warming centers that are open past 7 o'clock at night for people who have been kicked out of shelters. Anyway, moving on to a happier note. I want to actually introduce Antea and Sean Cutter to front to honor the evening with a fancy dance. So Joshua Cardinal, he's a grass dancer, and Missy Sisika, a fancy dancer. Antea Cutter and singer. Sean Cutter with the Blackfoot Confederacy drummers are joining us tonight to showcase their culture of talent. The family has strong compassion for folks experiencing homelessness and have had close personal experiences in their past. So please welcome our dancers. Can you still hear me? No, I didn't think so. I don't know what happened here. Hello? Let's try this. Oh, here we go. Is it working? Okay. We'll try this one. There we go. Our backup plan. Gotta have a backup plan. So thank you to Anita and Sean. I'd like to now invite Hillary Chappell to the front with the official event proclamation. Hillary is also a member of the Client Action Committee, so please help me welcome Hillary.
The longest year memorial is an annual public event coordinated by the Calgary Homeless Foundation Client Action Committee. It is an opportunity to commemorate those who have lost their lives or homeless or due to their experience of homelessness. Whereas this year marks the 8th anniversary of this important candidate memorial, whereas relationships that are formed and sustained among the homeless community can be just as important as biological family connection. Whereas every person who passes has the right to a dignified memorial service where friends and family gather to mourn, reflect and remember. On behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Calgary, I hereby proclaim December 21st 2022 as the longest night of the year. Signed, Jeremy Gondek, Mayor.
This one's better. Okay, thank you very much, Hillary. So in honor of Mayor Jody Gondek, on behalf of the city, has issued a mayoral proclamation. Oh, which Hillary just read, I'm sorry. I'm a little behind the times here. I'm gonna get with it one of these days. So please join me in welcoming a lovely lady who I met when I was homeless on the streets, Susan Brandt. This amazing lady has spent many years experiencing homelessness. Susan's turned her life around, and she's educated herself to become streetwise and book learned. In 2 years, it will be 50 years that she's gratefully served in shelters and on the streets as a nurse, a teacher, an educator, addictions and trauma professional counselor, chaplain, and neighbor. And the first time I went to Hillary, she brought a glass of water and a pair of slippers and made me feel at home. I love you, Susan. Please come up.
Very good. You know, when I first started serving in the community of the streets, people would say, "Oh, Susan, you're like a sister to me." Then they started to say, "Oh, Susan, you're like a mother to me." Now they go, "Oh, you're like a grandma to me." And I don't really know what comes after that. But I have to say that I am very honored to have been asked to come and share a few words with you. It's been my life's journey to come alongside people who feel oppressed, marginalized, excluded, not heard, not seen. Sometimes I just say to folks, you know, all I've done is cross the street because I lived homeless for many years at the beginning, and I have continued living very close to the streets, as Alpha House is my neighbor. So, you know, my story is not so different than many stories you might hear, you know, growing up in a home where there was much addiction, where there was mental illness, where there was poverty, and where there was abuse and violation. So I can remember being about age 8 when I started to think about how am I going to escape? How am I going to go to save my own life? And I started hitting the streets. 12, 13, the police had come, bring me back, run away, police had come, do a stint in reform school, you know. And then finally, probably around age 15, nobody came looking for me anymore. And I remember being in really a bad place because I had met an older man in his 30s as I was about 15 who seemed to be cool. He had a motorcycle. All his friends had motorcycles. And when that got really ugly on the streets, when he said he was going to take care of me, but introduced me to a whole new type of abuse and trauma, I went home and my family didn't live there anymore. It took me about another 10 years to find they had moved from Ottawa, my hometown, to British Columbia. So I was very old by 15, 16, 17, and I'm very grateful that in my early 20s that there was a change in my life. Actually, what happened is I did that last hit of speed and my kidney burst, and that got my attention. And so changes began to happen in my life, but I felt very lost, I had no role models. I didn't know how to live life. And so I was introduced to the person of Jesus, who just spent time with homeless people, who loved and cared and shared, who much of the world couldn't stand. And that became my role model. And that became a spiritual awakening that turned my life around. No magic, no presto healing, but step by step, blood, sweat, tears. And I continued my healing process. So the journey there, started to educate myself, volunteering back on the streets, became a nurse. That was the first thing I did. And then over the years, started a nonprofit agency in Ottawa that is now one of the biggest agencies serving unhoused community. And it's been running since 1984. So I'm very privileged. I came out yesterday out of my building, and there was a tent set up in the corner of the parking lot where my car parks. Yesterday, so freezing, people are losing limbs tonight. I was walking down the street, and the fellow was kind of shuffling along. I know him. I know all my neighbors. I haven't forgotten where I come from. And I said to him, I was belly aching, "Oh, it's so cold. I'm so cold." And he reached inside of his jacket. He said, "I got something for you." Reached inside of his jacket, and he pulled out the newspaper. He had newspaper all on the inside of his jacket for insulation. And he gave me a piece of newspaper that he pulled out from it was right over his heart. And he gave it to me, and he said, "Put that close to your heart. Merry Christmas." Touched me. It touched me. One of the biggest things that people who are set adrift for whatever reasons and don't have a home and don't have a family is that deep, deep abiding loneliness. I haven't forgotten what it's like to just see the legs going by as I'm stemming. In Ottawa, we used to call it stemming, spare changing. And having people look down their nose at me and call me names. And there's a deep, deep loneliness that comes to this life and this existence. And 2022 has had its challenges, and for so many, it's brought on nothing but more pain, loss, and despair. The news is full of negative stories, and yet there is the silent wonder of the amazing bravery, generosity, and resilience of so many who take risks and who give without cost to help those who are suffering and who are in great need. Homelessness is a tragedy. How can it be that we have so many homeless in our city, a rich city like Calgary? More and more people are falling into homelessness, as the middle class begins to erode, and they don't know how to be homeless. And some of them, are in for a very rough ride. Many people who experience homelessness, like myself, were disconnected from their families. And now, in fact, I've outlived my family. I only had a mother and a stepsister, and they're both gone. And but in the house, she ran a rooming house, and there were for lots of creepy men in the house that we were passed around. And so the relationships that were formed and sustained when I was on the streets became so important to me and became more important than my family. When someone loses a member of their street family, the personal and community loss is truly devastating. So tonight is one night of the year when those men and women experiencing homelessness and houselessness who have passed away are no longer invisible. Their lives tonight are honored, their experiences are seen, and their loss is mourned. Here we are in one of the richest countries in the world. No one should have to live or die of not having a shelter or of being homeless. Let this year be the last year that such a memorial need to be held. You know, I think there's a difference, you know, as much as I appreciate the messaging, I think that housing cures houselessness, community cures homelessness. I have seen over my many years doing outreach, you know, that someone may be given a place and a shelter and a key to their own place and still die of homelessness, the crushed spirit, the lack of not just trauma-informed care, but trauma-taught care, because, you know, this type of scavenger existence brings about its own ugly breed of trauma. And for some folks, how smart are they to have discovered that drugs and alcohol for a season, you know, help to numb out the experience of the profound pain of not belonging, of not being heard and not being seen. Unfortunately, in time, it takes its toll too. I have, you know what I need to do? I need you to give me a time to stop talking, because otherwise I might just keep talking. So when the time is up, give me 5 minutes before or something. We're at 5 minutes. Okay. My time flies. Okay. So I want to tell you about a friend of mine. I met her outside of the A&W that used to be on 17th Ave. And we sat that day and had a great conversation. And I said to her, I said, well, we could get together again. If you want to meet me again next week, I'll come here. And she had been homeless. She told me she had been out on the streets off and on for close to 30 years. Those of you that know, you know her, Nora. And so I started to meet with her, and sure enough, she would show up, and some days she would just be angry, you know, what the F are you doing? Why are you coming and sitting here? Are you just some kind of do-gooder, you know, like this? And other times she'd go, oh, Susan, you know, don't you? You understand, don't you? Her pain was palpable. She had been horrifically traumatized. It was almost like she'd never had a chance in life. And yet, behind the bark, and she had a bark, was such a tender heart, such a loving, tender heart. And then she got housed, and she loved her own place. And she would say that the biggest problem, though, is that she was lonesome. She wasn't near her friends anymore. She liked to have a little drink, which was, to me, like a lot of drink, because I haven't drank since 75, but she liked her drink, and that would get her into trouble from time to time. And she loved cats, and I have to confess, I did sneak my cat into her building a number of times so that she could actually play with the cat, because that just lit up her heart, and of course she wasn't allowed to have pets. And I remember the day that she got barred from the distress center. They told her, don't call here ever again. Because at nighttime, it was worse. When it's dark, when there's nobody around, when you can't get out and about. And she would phone them and phone them and phone them and phone them. So I said to her, I got this new app on my phone, so you can phone me, because all messages will be printed out in a text for me, and then I can quickly peruse them. And so she would use up my entire phone messaging, you know, all night long. And at night, she would say, oh, she let out her rage, and she would scream, and she would yell, and she'd call me names. And in the morning, she'd go, I think I phoned you last night, like about 30 times. And she said, don't listen to anything I say when I call you at night. I let her do that for the 7 years that we hung out together, every night. Yes, she had a deep, long loneliness. She became immobile, and she was transferred to a harm reduction building where she rapidly declined in health. And I was called to the hospital when she was dying, and I was with her as her family showed up, family that hadn't seen her in many years. And so we were there for her last breath. Being a chaplain, I also then did her funeral for the family at the gravesite, and also did the memorial service at the harm reduction building she was living in. How she blessed my life and how I miss her. You know, people need supportive housing with trauma-trained support in place. I think that that's quite essential. And I'm finishing up now, like, you know, in conclusion, once I get this page turned. Okay. So tonight I encourage you to acknowledge our collective grief, to share stories of those who have passed away, to say their names out loud. Tomorrow we'll get back to our work and hope and dream towards building a community in which we no longer need a homeless person's Memorial Day. There is light amid the darkness. Let's claim it. And so I just would like to close in a prayer and just some thoughts. So, dear God, Creator, God of our understanding, let us pray for the ones that are struggling with severe mental health, who can't see the world through a clear lens, and exist with a view of the world which is contorted. A permanent place to stay is not in their path. May we journey with them to find answers. And places of refuge in the nighttime of their lives for the ones with PTSD, hurt by wars and the world. May their spiritual wounds heal. And in this meantime, as their lives are lived under stars and clouds, may your light give them promise. For LGBTQ children who find no place at home, forsaken by family, deserted by friends, may your light guide them to families of the soul. For the ones struggling with addiction whose life shifted because of this health crisis and no home fits their current shape of life, may the power of your love strengthen them and gift them the courage of newness and health. For the ones who live in the system of eviction, surviving on couches, crouching in car seats, trying to sleep in spaces so small and find a place of their own. May our world work together to lead them to homes and pathways to hope. For ones living amongst violence who wonder if every tomorrow will be the end of their journey, may our communities find ways to find the refuge of peace that they so need. For the ones who have perished by violence, from suicide, from overdoses, from the frigid chills of the air, from lack of medicine and lack of food, for their loved ones who grieved long before their deaths and will long after, we pray for everlasting peace. We pray for their loved ones' comfort to cover them during this, the longest night of the year. May our systems change and may our hearts transform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. That was lovely. So I'd like to ask, have I fallen off a, hello? Oh no. Hello, hello? The other mic's not here. Oh, here, is that working? Hello?
Can I give it a second? Try again.
Hello? Amazing. Okay, I've got to learn to stop turning the mic off. Oh, it did it again. Oh, no, okay. I'm not even touching the panel. Okay, so thank you very much, Susan. I would like to now ask Joshua Cardinal and Sean Cutter to come to the front for a grass dance. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joshua and Sean. I would like to now invite Paul Jensen, Randy Pages from the Client Action Committee to come up and share eulogies with you. First up is Paul Jensen.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
Well, like she said, I'm Paul Jensen, member of the Client Action Committee. Formerly homeless for 15 years of my life as well, but this isn't about me. Today I work for an amazing organization called the Sharp Foundation, which houses people that are chronically homeless. Although I'd like to recognize all the humans we've lost over the year, and we will during the reading of the names, I chose just one. Her name is Brandy Starblanket. And I'd like to acknowledge Dean and B for helping me write this. Ooh, I'm gonna tear up, so please forgive me early. We see a lot of unique individuals make their home at Murray's house. None was more kind than Brandy. While she only lived 43 years, she lived a life of purpose, of lessons, of kindness and growth. What can be said about Brandy? She was very unique, special, and selfless. Brandy gave so much to so many people around her. She was an absolute angel on earth. While Brandy was with us, she would spread her wings to shield and protect the ones she loved, and even some she didn't. Like Brandy's favorite animal, the mythical phoenix. Her flames burned bright, and if she were to be reborn, her passion would flow through the world and warm the earth, even on this longest night. Brandy was a teacher. She struggled, always came back from her problems, accepting her challenges and pushing through, learning all the lessons that she was offered. Oh. Is it on? Is it on? Oh, got another one?
Hello?
Sorry to get used to. Where was I here? Can you hear me if I talk loud enough? Yeah. Let's see. Randy was a teacher. She struggled, but always came back from her problems, accepting her challenges and pushing through, learning all the lessons that she was offered. Brandy was a guide who impressed us all with her unfettered faith through the hardest times. Brandy was a giver and a healer who shared all she could. Brandy sacrificed her needs to ensure those of others, often helping people she felt in greater need of herself than herself, irrespective of who they were. She showed us how to care with reckless abandon. Brandy had a warrior spirit. She fought without fear against foe and friend. She pounced with great fire, but forgave just as quickly and wanted forgiveness for any transgression, real or implied. The Creator who made us all had placed so much on Brandy's plate, but she still fought with her heartfelt soul and extremely kind personality to do as much as she possibly could for the ones around her. If there was someone who needed to feel loved, cared for, or wanted, Brandy was always there for that someone. Always there to feed someone hungry or to help someone sick. Brandy would be the angel they needed, even if she was not in the mood. That's what made her special. We cannot change the past, and we can never have her back. But all we have to do is close our eyes to see Brandy's face, see that big smile, and hear that very contagious laugh. Brandy will forever be in our hearts and minds. What can be said of Brandy? She was a teacher, a student, a giver, and a healer. And she was, in the end, a friend. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to get emotional there for a minute. That's not my job. Thank you, Paul. I'd like to introduce another friend of mine from the Client Action Committee, Randy Pages. Randy, are you ready?
Thank you all for being here tonight. It means a lot. There's one person in particular I want to talk about. He was a member of our committee. He was a member of the youth table. And above all that, he was my friend. He worked alongside of us on many things. I just wish he was here with me right now. Sorry. No, I
You
got
want to
that.
hear what you have to say?
I got this. It's been a little bit difficult for me over the last little while. I just had some dental work done, so I'm getting used to talking, so I hope you guys can hear me. I know it was said a little while ago, I love this event, but I never want to do it again. This is painful. We've lost too many people. We lose friends every day. And he wasn't even homeless anymore. He was turning his life around. He was doing good. Things just happen that way, I guess. Not all of us are lucky enough to get housed and maintain and lead a life. Some people just can't, I guess. I can't really concentrate right now. I'm just really sad. I did this last year again, another good friend of mine. This year, another good friend of mine. We need to, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Randy. Did somebody grab my? Paul? Anyway, we didn't pre-plan this, can you tell? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, thank you, both Randy and Paul. At this time, I would like to invite Susan, Hillary, Paul, Sandra and Nigel to the front for the reading of the names.
Adam, Albert, Alexander, Alfred, Alan, Alec, Alicia, Amanda, Andrew, Anise, Anne, Anthony, Archie, Arlette, Audrey, Autumn, Barry, Ben, Benjamin, Bernice, and Bill.
Thank you, Teresa. Blair, Lawson, Brad, Brandy, Brock, Bruce, Candice, Carrie, Carl, Charles, Chase, Cheryl, Shahina, Christina, Christopher, Cindy, Clayton, Cody, Cole, Crystal, Curtis, Dakota.
David, Dean, Dejan, Dang, Defon, Derek, Desiree, Donald, Donalda, Elgin, Elizabeth, Emery, Eric, Eugene, Fred, Gary, Gerald, Bear, Jerry, Gino, Gwen, Gordon, Greg, Gatan, Hannah, and Hannah.
Heath, Irvana, Jacob, James, Janie, Jarrett, Jawar, Jay, Jeff, Jessica, Jetson, Giles, Jim, John, Jordan, Julie, Carrie, Kylie, Keith, Kelly, Ken, Carrie, Kevin,
Jim, Chrissy, Christina, Kurt, Flossie, Lawrence, Leanne, Lee, Leslie, Leon, Leonard, Leslie, Linda, Lauren, Lou, Lear, Waddle, Megan, Margaret, Marilyn, Marcus, Marty, Lorraine, Michael, Michelle, Mike, Murray, Musa, Mushiki, I hope if I'm wrong, please don't be mad at me. Myron, Nasir, Nathan, Niels, Nicholas, Nicole, Nora, Pascal, Patrick, Peggy, Penny, Harry, Phil, Neville, Ralph, Ralphie, Randy, Rasta, Raymond.
I have to add 2 more names to my list. So, Chris and Paige. Raymond, Rhonda, Richard, Robert, Robin, Ron, Ronald, Rosalie, Roy, Ryan, 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 Samantha, Sarah, Scott, Seamus, Shane, Shannon, Charlene, Sean, Sean, Sheldon, Shelley, Cheyenne, Skylar, Skylar, Stacy, Steve.
Stephen, Stone, Sukhwinder, Tamara, Tanis, Tara, Tenzin, Terrence, Terry, Teresa, Thomas, Tim, Tresella, Trevor, Trina, Tristan, Tyler, Tyler, Tyson, Van, Victor, Vincent, Walter, Warren, Wayne, Wendy, Wendy Lynn, William, Wiley, Wynn, Yaya, Zachary, Zulfikar.
Thank you, Nigel. Tonight, we've read 242 names. We would begin now. Oh, hang on. We would, hello, testing. Is that one working? Great. Apologize for the technical difficulties. We'd just like to honor these folks with a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone, for sharing the names of those we have lost in the last year, and for holding a moment of silence. Each name read tonight represents an individual who's passed away while experiencing homelessness. But we must always remember that being homeless does not define the life that they've led. I hope that you will all continue to pay tribute to them after we leave here today. I'd like to now welcome Atea Cutter and Sean Cutter and Joshua Cardinal to come to the front and lead us in a round dance for anybody who would like to join. I think it's a very nice way to... Oh, we're gonna head over there. Yeah, if anybody would like to join for a round dance. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean, Anita, Atea, and Joshua for leading us in the round dance. And we've reached the end of tonight's program. Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight, online or in person. We are brought together by the loss, but together we can inspire hope and healing while cherishing moments and memories of the people that we've lost and the impact they had on us. Many of those people's names shared our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and friends. Each one of them has lived a life that is to be cherished and honored. If you have written someone's name in remembrance of them, please grab a piece of paper over here, write it on a Post-it note and please come up and put it down. I want everyone to grab a flower and Safeway in Mission donated these lovely flowers for our cause tonight, so I really appreciate Safeway for doing that. So if you want to grab a Post-it note, put it on there, write your loved one's name down, grab a flower, lay it to them. If you want to take it with you, feel free. Thank you so much for coming, ladies and gentlemen. And keep warm and be well.
Anybody that would like to join this friendship dance, so you're welcome to join. Yeah.